Hi, welcome back. Let's continue with basic procedures in SAS. And in today's video, we'll be talking about Proc Freq. Proc Freq procedure is used to create cross tabulation of your data and create frequency tabulations of one or more variables. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna create the HMAQ data set like we've been doing from this um, CSV file available here. Okay, so it's been created with 5,960 observations and 18 variables. Okay, so I'm also going to sort it. We've already seen sort, and the reason we sort is the by statement is applicable in Proc Freq as well. So I'm going to sort it by region, descending value of state, and city like we've done before. Okay, so here's the simplest form of this HMEQ sorted data set. Proc Freq is the name of the procedure. Data equal to keyword followed by the data set that you want to create the tables on. Tables is a statement in Proc Freq that lets you create frequency tables. So I'm saying tables followed by the variable state here. And so for each state that you have, Alabama, Alaska, all the way down to Wyoming, it tells me the table statement is produced as output. It tells you the number of occurrences, frequency for the state of Alabama, number of records that belong to the state of Alabama, and then you have the percentage, what percentage of the records uh, came from Alabama when you look at the 5,960 records. And then the cumulative frequency, meaning at this point it's 90, so there's only 90 records so far. Uh, and then the cumulative percent out of 100, what percentage came from Alabama. Okay, so if you go to the next record, these two columns become a little bit more apparent. So Alaska has 13 contributing records in this data set, and that's 0.22% of the total number of records. And now the cumulative frequency is 90 plus 13, 103, and the cumulative percent is 103 out of 5,960 records, which is 1.73. Okay, so that's what that is. So that's the simplest form. You can save this output that you created, the frequency table, to a data set. So you use an option on the table statement and you write it out. Okay, so this is the same output that we saw because our table statement has not changed. The only thing that has changed is the output option. So now you have an output table HMEQ state frequency in the work library that has the state, the count, and the percent. The cumulative values don't go to the output data set. Okay, so now I can use a tabulation of more than one variable. So if I want to see the big breakdown of state and the bad, means bad has 0 to say that it was a good loan, and to say 1 that means it was a bad loan, meaning that the payment didn't come through or something. So now it tells me for Alabama how many records did I have uh, that were good loans, how many were bad loans, and what is the total. So 90 loans, out of that 78 were good loans, and what percentage of the total records. So you can see here frequency is the first row in this cross tabulation, and then the percent, what percent is 78 out of the total number, and what percent is 12 out of the total number. And then you have the row percent and the column percent. So these are um, this is 78 out of 90 is this value, 12 out of 90 is this value, and then how much is 78 out of the total number of records, which is um, sorry, 78 out of the total number of zeros. Okay, so that's what column percent is, and 12 for Alabama against the total number of ones in the data set. So that's what this is. This is kind of, some people like this. It's not my favorite way to look at data. So there's a way to present it in a more conventional table form. For that, For that, you use what is called as the list option. So you use the list option along with the cross tabulation data here. And if I run this, I'm gonna get it in a more tabular form, which is kind of what I'm used to seeing. But you do see that there's two rows created because there's two distinct values of bad. So when you cross tabulate based on how many distinct values, you get that many rows in your report of proc frequency. Okay, so you can also visualize data using the plots option um, for your table statement. So let's take a look at this. Okay, before I go to the output, notice here that I used the where statement to subset. So where statement I mentioned in the previous videos is applicable to a lot of procedures, and frequency is one of them. And you can subset your data. And here we are introducing you to what is called as SAS functions. SAS functions are like functions in any other language. You pass a parameter and it gives you the output. In this case, I'm saying upcase of state, and the state can be lowercase, mixed case, whatever case. When you use upcase on that, it's going to return the upcase value for that state. So I'm comparing it against the upcase Alabama. Okay. So this is a new thing. These functions are applicable to procedures and also to data steps. You can use them anywhere. Okay. So let's go back to the results. So I said plot, do a frequency plot. So it's done um, a frequency distribution of for the state of Alabama, state equal to Alabama, and it's telling me how many of them were zeros, meaning they were not bad, and how many of them were one. So you can get visual output. And actually there's lots of other kind of plots that you can do, and I encourage you to go um, look at the documentation for this. There's lots of stuff that you can do in Proc Freq. What I'm showing you is only the basic stuff. Okay, and then there's also option to suppress some of the output. When we did um, the the state and bad, it gave you four of those things. It showed you frequency, percent, row percent, and column percent. If I don't want row and column percent, I can use that option to say no row and no column. And when I run that, I will get only the two outputs for frequency and percentage. Okay, so that's what that option is for. Um, okay, so one more thing is, this is the last thing I want to talk to you about. In Proc Freq, if you have missing values for any of your variables, then those missing values are not included in your output calculation. That's the default behavior. So, but if you want to include the missing values in your output calculation, then there is a missing option that you can provide to the table statement. And so we look at how this works out with and without the missing option. Okay, missing option is used to include missing values in your frequency statistics. Okay, so the first one on top, I did not include missing values in my frequency statistic. And now in the bottom one, I did include. So in the bottom one, you see the job has missing values, and that's part of my table. Here, it's not part of my table, but it does say that there were 6 missing values. So you get that. In addition to that, the missing values become part of my calculation. 6 out of the total 90 is 6.667%, right? That's my percentage of missing values for job. And then the one which is a manager is 14%. If you go up here, manager is 15.48%. It's a little bit higher because the 6 missing values were not used in the calculation of these percentages. So that's how it's different when you use missing and when you don't use missing. Okay, so finally, I want to tell you that, the only thing I talked to you today was about the table statement. This is the most frequently used statement in Proc Freq. Um, you can you can also use by. So let me quickly talk to you about this before I wrap it up. There's also by statement that you can use to um, create a frequency output for each unique value of the city. So in this case, I've already subsetted by Alabama, and I'm saying give me a table output for by job versus bad for each unique city. So when I do that, I get, instead of seeing one whole table, now I see Alexander City, Andalusia City, and so on. It gives me the cross tabulation of job versus bad. Okay, so that's the end of that. And finally, I want to say, please go and look at the documentation. I only talked about table statement. There are other statements and by statement. We looked at table and by, but there are other statements like wait statement, test statement. There's a couple of other ones, exact. Um, these are all not used unless, if you're just basically looking at your data distribution, see how many missing values do I have, what I showed you is enough. But if you need to do more specific things, assign weights to your variables and stuff, then you need to understand some of the other things. So go to SAS documentation and take a look at it. Okay. That's all for today in this video. We'll talk to you in the next one. Thank you.